And joining us now is Brian Boyle, who is the author of these two books, Eye and Heart and The Patient Experience. And Brian, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Maybe if you could just go back to the beginning and let us know how this all began, the impetus for writing these books and your life events that took you to this point.
It's been a journey. The past 11 years, July 6, 2004, I just graduated from high school. And I was coming home from swim practice, and I was involved in a near-fatal car accident with a speeding dump truck. The injuries were catastrophic. Heart went across my chest, shattered ribs, shattered pelvis, collapsed lungs. Pretty much every major organ failed at that time. I was medevaced to a local shock trauma unit, underwent emergency surgery, and was placed in a medically induced coma and was on life support for 2 months.
What was that experience like for you, and to come through that? And I know, just reading from some of the material, doctors didn't expect you to walk again, and they weren't expecting much from you at the time.
That's true.
Talk about that and how you grew from that and came out of that.
Every day was a gift. Every day was an absolute blessing, because in that time frame, I was on life support and I had so many people around me contributing to my recovery process. And the prayers and the support and the beliefs and the encouragement, it kept me going. And I would hear from my parents every couple minutes, "Brian, you were in a car accident, a few broken bones, you'll be out of here in a few days." And after a few months of seeing this and hearing this, and I'm seeing them suffer, and I'm seeing the fire in their eyes, I realized my situation, it wasn't looking too good. And I remember being given the last rites. I remember hearing about possible vegetative state and nursing homes the rest of my life. And all my goals that I had when I was 18, they were all shattered like the bones of my body. But my faith is what kept me grounded in that moment. And I believe in my most difficult times in life, when I was thinking about the possibility of never leaving the hospital room, and the impact it would have on my parents and my family and the people supporting me, it made me realize that I wasn't the only person suffering in room 19 of ICU. And I had to keep going for the people around me. They were believing in me. And I believe in that divine intervention, because they gave my parents, that faith that we had gave my parents strength in that moment to realize that that was a moment where I was thinking that I probably couldn't go much further. And they stepped in and gave me that strength to believe in myself and to keep going. And ever since that day, 11 years ago, it's been the road to recovery ever since.
It's amazing. And you talk about the faith and how it got you through that. And you caught the attention inside Vatican too. Could you talk about that, naming you the top 10 person in 2007?
That was a true privilege. And for me, my faith has always been a big part of my life. I was raised in the church. I was a good boy. I was a good kid when I was growing up. I went to school, did well in sports, and did community service. And then when I was 18, everything was put onto a different platform for me. It was a different kind of challenge that I wasn't used to. But having that faith background is what kept me focused that tomorrow could be a better day. And I just tried to make a positive impact on the world from the point that I left. Even when I was still in ICU and I was going around to the other rooms in the unit, and I would talk to their families of the other patients, and I was still a patient myself. I'm not sure where this strength came from, or where this gift to talk to people, I'm not sure where it came from, but I just realized that my experiences were able to connect with people who were suffering and overcoming adversity, and I thought I could reach out and help in that process in their time of suffering.
Yeah. And this is what became of it too. Eye and Heart was the first book that
Yes.
you wrote, and talk about your experience. And I know that you do a lot of speaking now on healthcare as well. And this is where the second book came in, The Patient Experience, because you had firsthand experience.
Quite a bit.
Talk about that and taking your experience and putting it down on paper, and what's that like, and has that helped you in your journey as well doing
It
that?
really has. And when I was brought back into the hospital 2 months after leaving ICU for heart complications and breathing problems and so forth, my nurses said, "Brian, how's your recovery going?" And I said, it's slow, but it's steady. We're improving. And they said, "We think it'd be good for you to put your thoughts down in a journal or a composition book." I went home that week and I began pouring my heart and soul into a composition book. 3 years later, I had a stack of journals about this high, and I thought these experiences could help many people. And to have this book being read in different schools across the country, and to go to these schools and speak to these students, whether it's high school or college, and to make that connection with them. There's so much enthusiasm and life and energy with the youth.
And I know healthcare is a major issue now too, and in speaking from personal experience too, how important it is to have good people involved in healthcare to help you and move you along in your journey.
It's so important. My wife, she's a nurse practitioner. My mother-in-law is a critical care nurse. I've almost married into the healthcare profession besides just a former ICU patient. So for me, I believe in healthcare. I believe in the care providers. And in my situation, in my moments of life where I'm seeing the people around me and they're doing everything they possibly can to get life back into me, it inspired me to become a healthcare advocate. And for me and my experiences, to write the patient experience, it was based on my family's experience of being in the hospital and not having someone to ask, like to turn to and say, is tomorrow going to be a better day? To almost navigate through that unknown experience that we were going through. And this book was a way for us to create a platform to be able to improve the experience for the patient, their loved ones, and the care providers looking after that family.
And you mentioned you're very busy now. As you mentioned, you're married, and I know you've done Ironman as well, the Ironman. Talk about your busy life, helping, talking, doing all the things that you're doing now. I asked you, you're in school as well?
Yes. I'm completing my first master's at Johns Hopkins for a master's in health communication. Then I'll go on to complete my MBA in healthcare management, and then go on to my PhD for healthcare policy management and patient safety. I do a lot of volunteer work, humanitarian relief and support with the blood donation aspect of things. Speaking on behalf of a former blood recipient, many times I can speak in from that life-saving experience. And then also with my racing, that's my way of showing that gratitude in a whole different platform. For me, it's about living life. And for once to go out there and the heart's racing, the blood's pumping, those are one signs that I was dying, now they're signs that I'm living. And I've become addicted to these kind of endurance events, whether it's marathons, ultramarathons, and Ironman triathlons. Every day is a gift, and I'm just so grateful for every single step that I have and to be able to make a positive impact.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Brian. It's amazing. And so the patient experience and Ironheart, where can people find out more about you and about these books?
Everything's online. My website is ironheartbrianboyle.com. I'm on Twitter, Brian J. Boyle, Facebook. It's in the bookstores and also online for both of those books as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian, for being with us.
Appreciate it.